shout. Tune in, feel the energy ignite. Oh, rise and grind, take flight. Hey, feel the unity, the pride electrified. There under the stadium lights, when legends thrive. Every touchdown with close to clock west. In Detroit we stand. Give it out there. Rise and grind, Detroit's calling out. Red football dreams in every shout.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show, Thursday edition. It is January 16th. Man, we are just 3 days away from this big showdown in Motown. And I got to tell you, Eric, the national media takes right now kind of bother me. Now, this whole week, I've kind of been highlighting, a lot of Jaden Daniels and the Commanders and kind of what they do. And I feel like the media is kind of running with it right now. Like they're really thinking that Jaden Daniels is going to come in and upset the Detroit Lions. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. I've brought in, we got Richard Sherman. We have NFL Live. We have Jeff Daniels at the end of the show. We've got Jay Gruden, and we have others that we're going to be highlighting today and talking about it. Now, tomorrow, I'm still waiting on an email, but tomorrow we might have a special guest that is going to come in and talk about the Detroit Lions defense. And, well, I mean, probably everything, but more importantly, I asked to highlight the Lions defense versus this Daniels RPO offense and what he sees. So we'll see if that comes to fruition today. But Eric, how you doing this morning? Before I run away with it, how you doing this morning, man?
Fantastic as always. Got another 3 inches of snow. The snow globe just doesn't stop. Not up here in northern Michigan anyway.
Well, let's make matters worse on that front. So this coincides with the Lions game on Saturday night. I just heard this morning that we are supposed to get dangerous weather starting on Saturday. Temps going to get into the negative 25 mark across the state. It's supposed to really hit by Monday. But if you remember last year, about the same time, where we're walking in to Ford Field, it is like minus 25, and we've got the Rams that night. Everyone was in the stadium early. It was crazy. And Megan and I were trying to find a place to park. I just parked on the side of the road and said, you know what, I'll just take the ticket because I was stupid enough not to pre-plan. Make sure you pre-plan for these events. So anyway, crazy weather on Saturday night. If you guys are going to the game, if you plan to be, outside tailgating, make sure you dress for the weather. Like seriously, it's going to be bad.
So I did something very, very smart for this weekend. The on-field sideline jackets that the players wear that go down to their knees?
Yeah, the big fluffy things, big fluffy coats.
Yeah, I got one. So I got a Detroit Lions sideline jacket that the players wear over their stuff. It's huge. It's awesome. And the warmest jacket I've ever put on in my life.
I can't believe you're going to try to wear that and somehow put it in underneath your seat in the stadium.
What I do is when here's a pro tip, a fan tip for all you guys. So what you do is you go to the pro shop right when you get in. Go directly to one of the little shops. There's one up by 147 and then the actual pro shop. Go in and buy your 2 game day pins. And when you do, ask for one of the giant clear plastic bags that they'll put jerseys and other stuff in. So I ask for one of those bags. I fold up my jacket. I stuff it in that bag. I tie it, and then I tuck it under my seat. And that way, if somebody spills a beer or has snow on their shoes or something, it doesn't get on my jacket. And that way I can wear whatever I want to wear into the game, and I don't have to have this cumbersome jacket in the way. So that's my little pro tip to keep your jacket from getting all dirty at the game.
Yeah, I do that all the time because, I learned my lesson years ago. It's not you that you really have to worry about. It's the people behind you. And if you get a jacket that's just full of beer and you've got to go outside in minus 25 degree weather after the game, you're not going to be a happy camper.
No.
So bring your bag, better plan ahead, right? You can also buy a Detroit Lions stadium bag. They come in, all shapes and sizes, but they have the max size available somewhere online. I'm sure you can find it. Those are good to use too, but it doesn't hurt to bring more than one. It really doesn't. That everybody in your party has their own bag because, you just end up with stuff, end up with stuff. So anyway, we got a packed show today. Absolutely a packed show. I hope we're going to be able to get to everything. I've got to keep my chatter to a minimum. So let me just give you the cliff notes here. We've got Knuckles is back, right? We're going to talk about David Montgomery. We're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, kind of what's going on here and what transpired now that is possibly going to interrupt one of the coaching opportunities in the NFL for Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn. But I've firmly said that they're not going to this place anyway, so I don't think that they are. That's just my take. Dan Quinn, what did he do? This kind of reminds me of a story last season about a reporter. We'll talk about that. Mark Brunell, his lone playoff win with a certain team. We'll talk about that. AFC, NFC offseason predictions. Eric's got an update on the schedule for us. And then we're going to get into the injury report and more NFL news and then Lions news. But then we're going to get into media takes and kind of go around the league and listen to what everybody else is saying. I'm just glad that, some of the work that I do, Eric, I mean, obviously you see it, right? I put a lot of time into this. And some of the work that I highlighted this week with Jaden Daniels and the RPO, the fact that I heard Richard Sherman, this was yesterday, so 2 days after I put this stuff together, say the same thing, it just makes me feel good that we're putting the right information out there for Lions fans. No clickbait, no garbage, just the right information. And it makes me feel better that we're putting on a good show for all the Lions fans to kind of, enjoy, right? And we're a part of it. We're part of the fandom. We're part of the fans. And I would want to listen to that too. I don't want to hear all the garbage that's out there right now. There's so much garbage being spewed. It's not even funny. Lions news, Aaron Glenn, what did he learn from his interview? Ben Johnson, what did he learn from his interview? Lions meet with the media this week. We'll possibly bring in some video from that. Listen to Jameson Williams if we have time. The genius of Dan Campbell and why we don't need to worry about this game is how we're going to wrap up this show and get into some more things about culture, Jeff Daniels, because honestly, this is our time, right? This is not anybody else's time. I'm sorry, Jaden. Great season, phenomenal rookie year. It comes to an end on Saturday night, and it's not even going to be close. Like it won't be. I can't imagine that Vegas is going to give us plus 9.5 and think that we're going to lose this game. They would lose a ton of money. Or make a ton of money. Just depends. So, all right. Where do you want to start here? I'm going to start with this. So yesterday I'm on YouTube. I'm listening to some, other media people talk about this game. And I read this quote. And this individual is Marine 3134. And that's Marine like women's name, Maureen 3134. And I told this individual, I said, man, that is an excellent quote about what just happened in the previous game for the Commanders. I'm going to use that tomorrow morning. I don't know if this individual is part of the channel. I don't know if they're a regular audience member. I honestly don't even know if they're a Lions fan. But they responded, which was nuts. Usually people don't respond. And they said, great, I'll be tuning in. So Marine 3134, I hope you're in. If you are, it'd be great to see you in the chat. But if you're not, great. Maybe you'll catch it later. Here was this person's quote. So Daniels was by no means running all over the Bucs. The Bucs were winning when Mayfield fumbled. Washington barely won that game on a deflection in their favor, which was more luck than skill that day. Lots of ifs. But imagine if Mayfield hadn't fumbled. And imagine if the ball had thunked to the right. Washington loses. And get this. Everyone is talking about how the pressure was too much for the rookie. The Bucs Stadium has nothing on Ford Field. This was a perfect quote for me to kind of get into the Thursday and Friday Lions talk, right, where we're going to start breaking down the game a little bit more. Mostly on Friday, I break down the game. But I thought that was a perfect quote to kind of give us the idea that this was majority luck in this game. Now, Jaden, look, got to tip the cap. 6 come from behind wins. These last drive wins. Yeah, if he gets an opportunity this weekend to have a last drive win or a last drive opportunity, yeah, we might lose that way. I mean, that's the only way I could see it happening if we're not up by, 14 to 16 points in the fourth quarter. So I thought this was a great quote. Eric, what do you think about it? I guess what I'm trying to say.
I love it because I've been thinking the same thing ever since I watched that game. The Bucs were in control in that game. They really were. And I really thought the Bucs were going to pull it out. I didn't want them to. I wanted to play Washington. So when I'm watching the game and Baker Mayfield makes that fumble, I was like, oh man, that just cost him the game. And sure enough, it did. And listen, those were the two things, the fumble and the doink off of the goalpost,
Yeah, doink in the right way.
Yeah. And it's amazing that it actually went in. Normally those don't go in. Normally they fall in the end zone, or they go off to the left or the right. They don't go back and into the field goal. So what an incredible way to win a game. And I thought that it wasn't so much that Jaden Daniels was running all over the place and throwing all over the place, and he had this fantastic, wonderful game. No, it was more they got lucky at the end. And a lot of these wins that the Commanders have been having this year are in the last 10 seconds of the game. So what does that remind me of? That reminds me of the good old days with Matty Stafford and having these late game heroics and having to win the game on a last second field goal or a last ditch effort, long pass down the field to Megatron to win the game. And what happens is that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable when you have to come from behind and you have to win the game late in the game. And there's usually an arc for all these playoff teams. You usually have to pay your dues. You usually don't get into the playoffs as a wild card, win the wild card, win the divisional, win the NFC championship, and go to the Super Bowl. You usually have been in the playoffs for a year or two. You've lost a few playoff games, and then you get to go further, right? It usually doesn't just happen on your first year getting into the playoffs like it did for us last year. That just does not happen very often. So we've paid our dues. We've won a couple of playoff games. We've lost a playoff game. So now it's time for us to complete the arc and make it all the way to the Super Bowl.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I do believe that there's an arc to this thing too. I think that it's not sustainable, right? I mean, Matthew Stafford. I mean, I think that's the most, most recent history you can think of with the Detroit Lions. He had more than 40 comeback wins in his career in Detroit. What did that do for us?
Nothing.
Not a damn thing. So, I mean, I think it's great that you have come from behind wins. I absolutely do. I think it speaks volumes to your character. It speaks volumes to the grit factor of your team and your resiliency and never being out of a game. I get it. But for all those 12 years with Matthew Stafford in Detroit, it amounted to absolutely nothing but for Lions fans just to cling on to the next game and cling on to the next game or the next season. And man, did you watch what Stafford did this last season? We came back on 6 games and won 6 games. Well, that might have been the only 6 games we won. So it doesn't move the needle for me. I think when you have a team like the Lions that are built different, right? They absolutely can win from any direction. Those come from behind wins mean more because they're able to, to actually win games in the end and put these teams out like Dan Campbell often does. He's not just going to settle for taking some points. Nope. He's going to go for it on 4th down when you have a sure field goal to win the game and go for it on 4th down and put the game out completely and run the clock out. That's the difference that we're talking about here. So next up here, let's talk about David Montgomery for a moment.
Sure.
Now, I did not bring in the video. I recorded it on my laptop, and I didn't bring it in. So yesterday, David Montgomery was filmed in practice, running around, looked great. Didn't seem like he had anything wrong with him at all. He was running a route, or carry, I should say. He made a couple of leaps. I thought he looked great. I don't think there's anything wrong with David Montgomery. That doesn't mean that he's going to come in and get a ton of snaps. But if what we saw is David Montgomery from that video, if that's who he is coming into this game, I have no worries about David. I just hope that he can stay healthy throughout this game and the rest of the season, into the Super Bowl, where he's just going to get better and better and better. But he's been practicing. Like, this is not his first go around. He's been practicing for well over a week and a half. So he should be solid.
Yeah, from what I saw, he said that he's 110%. He feels better than he did before he injured his knee.
Well, let's throw this out there. Okay, you just had how many weeks off as a running back?
3 or 4? Yeah.
No, 6. I think it was 6 weeks now.
Oh, okay.
So imagine a running back having 6 weeks off of no contact, right? You're not getting pounded and grounded in, week in and week out. He's coming in with fresh legs like Thor just did last week. He's going to have a little extra pop and pep in his step in this game. He's going to be a little bit quicker, right? He's going to have to settle down. I'm sure that he's going to be, all sorts of, go, 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 go. He's going to have to get back to that patient David Montgomery style that has been so great to watch the last season, or couple of seasons, honestly. But he's going to have a little extra pep this weekend. And I think that it's going to be enlightening, to say the least, watching him be able to run again. So you had a note for us or a topic here on Jerry Jones, and that's going to lead into this next topic of the Chicago Bears job. So what's going on with Jerry Jones?
Would it surprise you if I told you that Jerry Jones is losing his ever-loving mind?
Would it surprise me? I think he's been losing his mind. I mean, it's Jerry's world, right? There's a reason why they call it Jerry's world.
I came across this article yesterday and I'm like, he's going senile. For real. So the Cowboys owner, Jerry Jones, had troubles with Mike McCarthy getting this contract done with Mike McCarthy. Well, the reason came out yesterday is because Jerry Jones pitched Mike McCarthy on having Jason Witten as an heir apparent to Mike McCarthy at the end of his contract. So he wanted Mike McCarthy to train Jason Witten to be a head coach, and then in a couple seasons, fire McCarthy and have Jason Witten be his head coach. And that is why McCarthy would not sign a contract with the Dallas Cowboys.
Hold on. So I didn't see this article, so I really can't frame a reference here. But
yeah.
So you're telling me he wanted McCarthy to pretty much train his replacement. Well, I mean, that I understand. I mean, I think all owners of a company, you don't want to have just one manager, right? You need to know that you have a couple of people waiting in the wings to be able to replace that manager when they're ready to go wherever they're going to go next. I mean, it's just part of the process, right? But if you actually told McCarthy, yeah, I want Jason Witten to be the next head coach and I'd like for you to train him. Well, who's Jason Witten coaching for now?
Liberty. So it says, however, one of the biggest reasons the two sides couldn't come together on a new deal after the expiration of McCarthy's contract may have been an unusual arrangement Jones suggested for McCarthy's new deal to potentially stay in Dallas. Jones had spoken with the future Cowboys Hall of Fame tight end Jason Witten recently, and the 11-time Pro Bowler was part of a plan Jones had for McCarthy's second Cowboys coaching contract. NFL media reported on Tuesday night. The report set up was for Witten to be the heir apparent of sorts to McCarthy, who is 61 years old. That's when McCarthy reportedly walked away from conversations with Jones to continue as the coach of the Cowboys.
So let's be transparent here. This isn't Liberty University.
No, Liberty Christian.
This is Liberty Christian High School.
Yeah, so it says Witten does not have any NFL or collegiate coaching experience, but he's won back-to-back state titles with Liberty Christian, a private school in Argyle, Texas.
So he doesn't have any real coaching experience, at the next levels. Jason Witten's going to need some time. You know, he's going to need a lot of time. So my question is, did Liberty Christian win a championship this year? Did they?
23 and 24, yeah.
And he's been there for both of those seasons?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's brought an NFL type of mentality to a high school. Good for you. You did the same thing that Teddy B did. in Florida, and of course you're going to win. You're bringing a totally different dynamic to a high school rank. I would have more respect, for Jason Witten if he would have moved on to college by now, which I don't think Teddy B wants anything to do with that. I mean, he said, pretty pointedly that, the type of sleep schedule that's required, even at the NFL level, he's not interested in that. So he loves where he is at. But for Jason Witten to move on to the next levels, yeah, you've got to at least coach some college here. You can't go from high school to the NFL. I mean, why hasn't he been an assistant? Why hasn't he been a positional coach or anything in the NFL? You would think that he would have an opportunity. It's not like Jason Witten was a bad football player. He's a hell of a football player for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, he was well over, 10, 12 years or something like that in the NFL. I don't know how long he actually played, but I want to say that it's 10, 12 years. I saw Jason Witten on my screen. 11 seasons. So I was close, right in the middle there. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think that Jerry Jones has just got some issues. It's time for him to hand off this team to someone else. But you know what? Don't do it anytime soon because we just still need to kick your ass this next season anyway.
Keep it up, Jerry.
So McCarthy. So kind of stemming, off of this topic here. Now we've talked about the Chicago Bears head coaching position that's available, and they're interviewing like 25 people for this job. So either they're really going deep or they just don't have a clue as to what they want in Chicago, or they may not feel that a lot of people are really interested in this position. They're just doing an interview to interview. I don't know who was really excited about Chicago, to be honest with you. So Ben Johnson, people have talked about Ben Johnson going to Chicago and Aaron Glenn. I don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I put a report out the other day that kind of said the opposite, right? That these guys wouldn't do that to Dan Campbell. They have too much respect for him. They're not going to go to an interdivisional team, and directly compete with Dan Campbell. They'd rather be somewhere else. Whether that's in the NFC or the AFC, it doesn't matter, just not the NFC North. So McCarthy. So because McCarthy has now moved on, Diana Rossini was quoted pretty much saying that McCarthy turns toward Chicago now. And that with Mike McCarthy, the saga ending in Dallas, that the Cowboys, being off to a late start in their search for a replacement, they're kind of up against it. That Jerry Jones is making calls and trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do in the Cowboys' next head coaching position, or the next head coach, who he really wants. But for McCarthy, now that he's free, he's meeting in person with Chicago about the vacancy. And if anybody has the best shot at getting that job, I think it's McCarthy. And it's because he's been in the NFC North before. And he knows all these teams really well. So why wouldn't you want? Now, even though these teams are different since he's been in the North, right? Different mentality. I think that McCarthy's probably an odds-on favorite here, at least a top 3 candidate for the Bears job. But they're also, considering other options. But I think that with the fact that McCarthy's available, it makes sense for the Bears. I would agree with Diana Rossini here that McCarthy makes big sense in Chicago. Not that I would like that, because I think McCarthy's a pretty damn good coach. He just has to put together a good team. That's the hardest part. So yesterday was some funnies. I don't know if everybody saw this, but before I get into this next topic about Dan Quinn, I mean, my goodness, dude, how do you fail this badly? This is a shocker to me that this happened. But before I get into that, Trace has a reminder for everybody that we will turn ads off once we get to 75 likes this morning. So take 2 seconds, jump out of the chat, go to the like button, smash it, move over to the right, smash that subscribe button while you're there, and join Rocked On Detroit Lions for the rest of these Detroit Lions seasons. And would appreciate having you guys aboard. You guys have done an excellent job. Every 250 subscribers, we give away a mini helmet. Kevin Barr won it yesterday while we were live in the morning show, and we're going to continue to do that the rest of the season. You just have to be in the show and answer a trivia question. It's that simple. To win a signed mini helmet by Panay Sewell or Chris Spielman. So, Kevin Barr, appreciate you yesterday. Got a nice email, and great to hear that we have fans in New York listening to the show, but also Detroit. I mean, they have a plethora of teams over there to choose from, but he's choosing Detroit. So, big ups to you, Kevin. But anyway, Trace wants to get these likes up and get these ads off, so let's do it. What were you going to say, Eric?
I just said awesome.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that's really cool to have somebody all the way from New York watching.
So here's what happened. The Commanders yesterday.
Dude, I laughed so hard when I saw this. First thing I did is I posted it on social media. and it went nuts.
So
everybody was telling me, this is fake. That's not real. That's not real. And I had to go get the article and copy and paste it and be like, nope, 100% verified.
All right. So do you remember last season when there was a reporter that I think they asked Todd Bowles, how are you going to prepare for Detroit? Are you going to have, the players practicing outside, this week to get ready for the cold temperatures in Detroit? Something to that effect. And Todd Bowles just kind of looked shocked, right? And he kind of answered the question like, it's in a dome, right? And anyway, so that went nuts. Well, Dan Quinn, being a head coach in the NFL, you would think would know that the Detroit Lions play in a dome in Detroit. Nope. Apparently, they're practicing outside in the cold weather yesterday. I mean, sub 30-degree temperature, and you're risking injury to your players by being outside in those conditions, and you're coming to a dome. What are you doing? Like, I could understand, like, if there was some real deep-seated psychology here that, okay, we're going to go get ready for the noise in Detroit, but I'm going to put my guys out in the weather instead, and I'm going to harden them up for that cold weather dome game instead of preparing for that noise.
Now, a video came out this morning, and I watched it, and it was of yesterday's practice outdoors for the Commanders, and they were piping in crowd noise, but you could still hear the guys talking. And I'm like, yeah, you guys don't have a clue what is coming on Saturday night. None whatsoever. Now, doesn't this whole situation give you Matt Patricia vibes? Because if you remember, Matt Patricia made the Detroit Lions practice outdoors in the cold and the snow to prepare for multiple indoor games.
I don't understand it. I really don't. And maybe this is a philosophy because I'm not a head coach of the NFL or any rank. Maybe this is a philosophy that I just don't understand. Like, why are you putting your guys outside in January to prep for an indoor game?
Well, this is what I feel they're doing. I feel they are preparing for the Eagles. They are looking past the Detroit Lions.
Oh, that's a mistake.
Exactly.
That is a big mistake. You cannot look past. You have to get through Detroit first. And that's just not going to happen. It's just not. Look, I've again, you guys have heard me all week. I've been hyping up the Jaden Daniels train and the Commanders train. And look, I felt that, I'll say it again for the 100th time. Jaden Daniels was my pre-draft pick for the best rookie quarterback coming out of this draft. I had zero confidence in Caleb Williams. I knew that, I felt that I didn't know. I felt that Jaden Daniels was going to be the guy. And whatever team got him was going to get one hell of a quarterback. And I have to be honest here. You go look at his poise in the pocket. You look at his three-step drop and how comfortable he is and how he delivers, just laser beams across the middle of the field. He's one of the best to do it in the NFL already. And that's scary as a rookie. But there's a lot of things he hasn't gone through yet. And there's certain areas of his throw pattern that are not working, right? He's hardly successful right or left over 10 yards. It's dead center. It's behind the line of scrimmage because of the RPO situation. It's a lot behind the scrimmage. If you can't throw right or left to the boundaries, you're in trouble this week. Now, I get it. The Lions give up a lot over the middle, but we can also change that with a simple change of the scheme. But that's where I see him throwing. His whole throw pattern, especially against the Bucs, was all dead center. The majority of it was dead center. Everything right and left, less than 40% completion rate. Not good. So even though I think that he's a hell of a quarterback, I don't think he's ready for this weekend. I really don't. So a long time ago, we highlighted this earlier in the week, but we'll do it again. A long time ago, there was a quarterback that is currently the quarterback's coach or whisperer for Jared Goff. And his name is Mark Brunell. Now, even though Jaden Daniels made history all season, he's put together another performance, against the Bucs. The last playoff game for the Commanders for them to win was against Tampa, right? I'm sorry. The interesting part is Washington's last playoff win came against Tampa. where this happened this, past weekend. But in January of 2006, Joe Gibbs was in his second season of his second contract with the Redskins, or then Redskins. And then you had Sean Taylor on that team that scored a touchdown. So the last time they won was against Tampa in 2006, and he just did it again. The quarterback, though, that was on that team was Mark Brunell. And Mark Brunell, it wasn't a memorable day for him. He threw for 41 yards in that game. Still somehow won the game. Not sure. I haven't rewatched the game, so I don't really know what happened in the game. But on Saturday, Mark Brunell is going to see Jaden Daniels and his former team. Mark Brunell is in his fourth season now with the Detroit Lions as a quarterback's coach. And it's safe to say that he's not going to be rooting for the Commanders. This is kind of a bittersweet meeting, I guess, again, for Mark Brunell. And I'm sure there's some relationships here that are going to be fun for him in this game. But the similarities here between Washington now and then, 18 seasons ago, it's kind of fun, right? Mark Brunell's the last, his only playoff win, I think, was with the Washington Commanders. So interesting. Very interesting. AFC, NFC predictions. You want to go here, or do you have anything you want to add?
No, I just wanted to add one quick little thing from the chat. Trace says that 4 of the last 5 times that the Commanders practiced outdoors, they lost the game the following week.
Interesting. Trace, I don't know where you find this stuff, but that's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, let's highlight people in the chat real quick.
Yeah,
we got John Desage in the house. Brent Lighton. Brent, you're not green or blue anymore. What happened? We've got K8 Pressed. Mike P's in the house. Good morning, Mike. Brandy Coffee. We got Jay-Z says Detroit can shut down a run game and have shown that they can contain mobile running quarterbacks this season. And with Anzo in the lineup, Jaden will be unable to make audibles and will have to pass, and we need turnovers. Jay-Z, I'm so glad that you just mentioned the T word, because the T word has been the most important word of this season, and that is turnovers. Sacks be damned. They're not going to win this game. It's almost impossible to get after a mobile quarterback that runs an RPO. You can contain, you're doing the job right. And I think that's what we're going to have to see is containment. And I do got to apologize. Last night I was going to go live and talk more about it. I'll do it tonight for sure. Just too much going on yesterday. Wasn't feeling the greatest yesterday, so we'll get it done today. J Mommy's in the house. Hey, Marina's in here. I don't know if that's the same Marine that I was talking about yesterday. Highlighted that comment. If that's you, welcome in this morning. All right, Marine says, I forgot to add, I am a Lions fan and have been all my life. We live in Indy, but we still watch every game. When I can, I stream Dan, Lomas, and TJ and mute the TV. The best way to watch a Lions game. I appreciate you, Marine. So I highlighted your comment yesterday. It was a great comment. And, honestly, it was a great take on the last game. So,
yeah, the Lions need to make that a package that you can purchase with Dan Miller on the call and Lomas Brown. I would rather be able to, after I get home from the Lions game, when I go home and rewatch the game, I want to watch that version. I don't want to watch the main broadcast. That sucks.
So on NFL.com or your NFL Pro package, which you should have access to, when you rewatch the games, when you watch it live, I know that you can select away and home broadcast. Now, when we're away, our away broadcast is Lomas and Dan Miller.
Oh, okay.
So you can at least listen to it, at least while the game's live. I've never gone back to listen to it and selected our broadcast because I'm always looking at the coach film.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can after it's been replayed.
I'll have to try it.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at it. I definitely would prefer listening, obviously, to them because they're not going to talk a bunch of crap.
Who wants to listen to Tony Romo? Not me.
Can't do it. Just can't do it.
It's awful.
All right, so NFL playoffs are in full swing. We know that, so we're going to take a quick moment and highlight the next season and maybe some predictions. This is coming by way of Yardbarker this morning. Yardbarker put out some really good information here on predictions. Now, these are not my predictions. I may give you a comment or two on what I feel, but I'll put out my predictions shortly after the season. So talking about the NFC East real quick, Dallas Cowboys, drafts a first-round running back, is what they're thinking. Now, the Cowboys chose not to draft a running back in last year's draft, and were fortunate to get a career high of 1,079 rushing yards from the now pending free agent Rico Dowdle. So with little used Deuce Vaughn, who they did draft a couple of seasons ago, he's the only team's running back signed for 2025. So they're expecting at the number 12 pick, mind you, that the Dallas Cowboys are going to select a running back. I don't think that's the case. I would be highly surprised if they select a running back, but honestly, I haven't done enough work on all of the teams yet for the draft to even give you an idea of who I think they're going to draft, but I don't think it's a running back. I think they have much bigger issues than drafting a running back that early. I mean, remember, you don't draft running backs number 12. You don't. It's a bad idea. Don't do it. Don't do it, Dallas.
The Lions did. Yeah, don't do what the Lions did. Whatever we did, don't do it.
New York Giants. This one was big, right? The New York Giants had New York not signed quarterback Daniel Jones to a 4-year, $160 million contract in 23, they would have drafted J.J. McCarthy. And that's funny because that's exactly where I had McCarthy going, was J.J. McCarthy. But then the Vikings did what they did, and we kind of thought that J.J. was going to go there anyway. It just made too much sense because, I mean, the Giants did make the move. So they think now that if the Vikings stick with Sam Darnold, which I feel is highly unlikely at this point, the GM, Joe Schoen, will gladly take a mulligan by sending Minnesota the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft to get J.J. McCarthy. So they think that J.J. McCarthy is going to be traded if Minnesota keeps Darnold. This has been talked about, but here we go again. A first-round draft pick being traded for a 3rd-round draft pick, or the 3rd overall draft pick, so moving up 9 spots. I don't know about that. I don't know why New York would want to trade for J.J. McCarthy when they could get a quarterback at number 3.
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles. Nick Sirianni gets a new deal. His juvenile antics, as they call it, can be hard to take, even for diehard Eagles fans, but they think that Sirianni's coming back, no matter what happens in the playoffs. The Commanders double down on offensive linemen. Well, I think that this is probably a big need for them. The offensive line was much improved this season, but they did allow 65 sacks from last season. Now they gave up the 6th most sacks this season at 47. So after watching Jaden Daniels scramble for a league-high 584 yards during the regular season, they believe that they're going to double down on offensive linemen. NFC West, well, they're thinking that that's where Tyreek Hill is going to end up as an Arizona Cardinal. I don't know about that. I think that Tyreek wants to win a championship again, and I think that he's not going to go hang out with Kyler. That just doesn't seem to make sense. Remember, Tyreek said that he may not be a cheetah, he's a lion, right? Remember when he said that? Hold on. This is what he said.
Maybe I'm not a cheetah, I'm a lion, baby. So
maybe Tyreek comes to Detroit next year. I don't know. How about the Rams? Rams signed cornerback DJ Reed in free agency. The Rams made considerable investments in the defense this last season, but they lack the secondary. So they think that DJ Reed is going to find a new home in L.A. San Francisco, they're going to trade Debo. Debo's out. Brandon Ayuk got his money last season. They're going to stick with him, and they're going to stick with Brock Purdy. But Debo's going to get traded. I actually agree with this. I think that if the San Francisco 49ers are smart, they're looking at their future, and they could probably get what they can get from Debo because he had a good year as one of the only options. Now's the time to move off. Makes sense to me. Seahawks make a big free agent splash with the center Ryan Kelly. They need a big upgrade in the interior of their offense, and the Yardbarker thinks that Ryan Kelly's the answer. Now the NFC North, and this is where I'm going to end predictions for the day. NFC North, Chicago Bears finished 5-12 on the season. The Bears, they're thinking they're going to trade up and take 2 offensive linemen in the 1st round. That would be the smartest thing that Ryan Poles has done yet. I think it is probably the smartest thing he could do at this point is to somehow give Caleb Williams time to do his job. And then we might see a different side of Caleb. I don't care how many yards he threw for this season. It's not a good season, but he needs time to throw. He needs time to do what he what he can do behind the line, and then we'll see if Caleb is really a good quarterback or not. How about the Green Bay Packers? Now, Packers finished 11-6, and per NBC Sports, Kelly Helenen, they're thinking that Jair Alexander is going to be traded. Now, this is a former second-team All-Pro cornerback, right? He would be in high demand this season, potentially going for multiple second or multiple third-round draft picks. I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, I know you don't care about the Packers, but
did you see that he cleared out his locker and would not talk to the media?
Yeah, he declined to talk to anyone
At the end of the season?
Yeah. So he could be out.
He's gone. And he was healthy enough to play the last few weeks, and him and Matt LaFleur did not see eye to eye.
So what's funny about these predictions, right, is from one area they're saying that, this is going to happen with Sam Darnold, that Sam Darnold's going to stick in Minnesota, and and JJ McCarthy's going to get shipped off for some draft picks. But then in the next section down, they say the Vikings aren't going to re-sign Sam Darnold. Did they forget what they wrote before? I don't know. But I'm so confident now that I think that Sam Darnold's gone. I don't think that Minnesota is going to invest the type of money that they're going to need to invest in Sam Darnold, unless Sam Darnold gives them some crazy, 1-year deal, like $35 million or something, or the franchise tag, which the franchise tag has got to be crazy high after all of these, new contracts this season. So I don't know. I honestly think that Sam's gone. And then your Detroit Lions. We'll finish here. So do you want Carlton Davis back?
I do.
You guys in the chat and in the comments later, you tell me, do you want Carlton Davis back? Now, I admit in the very early stages, beginning of this trade, I went and did my deep dive, right? And I said, this is what I came up with. This guy misses a lot of time. 23% of available games he's missed. He was injured every season. This season, we saw the true Carlton Davis, where even though he was getting banged up, he was still playing. And I mean, you had to drag him off the field so that he wouldn't play, right? He wanted to play no matter what was going on. You couldn't keep him out of the game. And honestly, he was one of the best corners in the game this season from a lot of different metrics. And I felt like the Lions got a decent bargain after the fact of the way he played. I don't know how much he's going to be worth right now in 2025 and beyond. Could be 15 plus million a year. So would you rather spend that kind of money on Carlton, or according to Yardbarker, the Detroit Lions are going to trade for cornerback Denzel Ward? So with Ben Johnson securing a head coaching position, is what they're thinking, that the Detroit Lions won't be able to rely on this elite offensive production, which is BS. It's not. We're not going to skip a beat. And since the Browns, they think, are entering a full-blown rebuild, no, it's not Myles Garrett. It's Denzel Ward that they're thinking is going to come to Detroit. He has a $100.5 million contract right now. I don't think that this one's going to happen. It's not for me.
No, that's a little too far-fetched. I would be more inclined to re-sign Carlton Davis. He had his jaw broken.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not a performance issue. That is not a leg. That's not a knee. That's not an arm, a wrist. That's not something that, this is something. How rare is a broken jaw? He's the first player I can ever remember with a broken jaw.
I've never heard of it, but you know what? There was a couple of guys this season that were having jaw issues.
But it's ultra rare. I know that Lee McNeil had some jaw issues. It was called a TMJ thing. And I thought that was kind of weird, but he basically got punched or kicked in the jaw. And I don't know what happened to Carlton Davis. I don't know how it happened. I don't know if he was making a tackle, if he was away from the play. I don't remember. But for $15 million, sign me up. Bring him back. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'll play for $15 million too. Sign me up.
Give him a 2-year contract.
It's 2 years at 30 mil.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense to me. Ads are off. Good job, everybody. Thank you for hitting the likes. Really appreciate you for helping us and taking care of the channel. It's really, it's all you guys, man. It's not me. It's all you guys. Thank you.
I like what Jay-Z's saying in here. CD3 is like the Jamal situation. Remember the Jamal Williams situation where, he's really good and we really want him to be around, but it just might be too much money. Is that what you're saying, Jay-Z?
It sounds about right. I mean, that was the Jamal situation last year. And honestly, I think that there was some miscommunication going on. And then that's what happens with these, agents. I feel like they're trying to hold out as much as they can because, their pocketbook's affected, this 2 or 3% that they get that goes to these agencies. I don't know what the commission is for the agents, but it's a lot of money. You talk 2-3% of $1 million, that's a lot of money to anybody.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes these agents hold these guys out a little bit for, a little extra money, and then it doesn't work in their favor, and he ended up signing for less. But I can't be more happy with who we have. Montgomery is, he's been perfect for this team. So we have the first injury report, the real injury report that we're going to talk about next for this game. And a little bit of concern here maybe, but we're going to tell you that there's really not a whole lot of concern here. So 2 offensive linemen out yesterday, Taylor Decker, Kevin Zeitler. Now, Kevin Zeitler's still dealing with his hamstring. I'm not sure if he's going to play this weekend or not, but if he doesn't, I think that we're going to end up seeing Mahogany in his place. You might see, Glasgow move to the right, Mahogany go to the left. The way that Mahogany has been playing or has played this season in his limited snaps, he's been great. But Taylor Decker, what's going on with Taylor Decker, Eric?
Well, so somebody sent me a message yesterday, like, what's wrong with Taylor Decker? He's not in practice today. And so I looked it up. It says personal. I found out Taylor Decker is having a baby. His baby's due this week. So that is why Taylor Decker was not at practice. Taylor Decker is fine. He will be in the game. It's not injury related. And if you remember last week when Zeitler came out of the game, Mahogany went in for him, and Mahogany played right tackle, and he did a spectacular job in the 6 plays that he had to play.
Yeah. Congratulations, Taylor Decker, man. That's awesome being a father again. Big ups to you. Hopefully you take all that energy that you're saving right now. Well, you're probably not saving a lot of energy. You got a lot of emotion going on. Apply it to the game on Saturday night, right?
Yeah. But the one good thing about that is Taylor Decker already has children. So I know he has at least one in. So he's been there. He's done that. He knows the routine.
So nothing to worry about with Taylor Decker. He should be back. He's probably back at practice today. Be fine, ready to roll. It's good that you see that even though there's personal things going on with these guys, that Dan Campbell is allowing these guys to take their personal time. That's part of the organization, right? And doing the right thing by their players. And, Dan Campbell was a former player. He obviously understands the importance of family and making sure that, these guys aren't disgruntled because they had to stay at work when their child's being born or whatever's going on. Family first. And that's the reason why this Detroit Lions team is so different. They are one giant family. You hear it all the time. You hear it from the players. You hear it from the coaches. You hear from some of the media people that highlight it, how close-knit this team is. They support each other. So big ups to you, Taylor. Congratulations. And then Kevin Zeitler. So I'll touch on this real quick again. That hamstring injury that he suffered was in Week 18 versus the Vikings. I believe it happened on the last possession of the game.
Yep.
Dan Campbell was fairly optimistic heading into the week off that Kevin Zeitler was going to be okay. But he was also listed as a non-participant, in Tuesday's practice. So working off to the side on Wednesday with trainers, are we concerned? Is there going to be a ramp up? Is there enough time for Zeitler to get back into the game? As long as he's healthy, it's not like this guy needs, a ton of practice time. He knows what he's doing. It's been around for more than 10 seasons in the NFL. He knows his assignment, and he's been one of the best right guards in the NFL this year. So I think he'll be fine. What else do we have here? So we have Pat O'Connor has this calf injury. He was a non-participant. Now, Dan Campbell did say, a couple weeks ago that he was not optimistic about Pat O'Connor. Unlikely that Pat O'Connor plays. That one is the one I'm most concerned about right now going into Saturday night. So Friday's injury report is going to be huge. And then we have Ennis Rakestraw. He's dealing with a hamstring and an illness still, but his 21-day practice window just started last week. Was it last week or this Monday? So he's still got time. Like I said this week, I did not expect Ennis Rakestraw to be part of the game plan. It's more, a depth piece if you need it this week or maybe next week, when we're headed into the NFC Championship game that he'll be installed. The best news, I think, that kind of came out of this week so far, obviously David Montgomery, but it's Terrion Arnold. Full participant, David Montgomery, full participant. These guys are ready to rock and roll. And in between Terrion Arnold and Montgomery and Kevin Zeitler out of this week, I think that those are the three most important positions out of this injury report that we need to keep our eyes on. But those guys are good to go.
Yep. And two things, Rakestraw, he practiced all week last week. He was a full participant. And then this illness is a new thing. And then Zeitler, if you remember, before he came to the Lions, he also had a child. And when he was in the room with his wife having the baby, he was doing footwork drills, preparing to play. So that dude, he's going to be just fine. Zeitler will be just fine whether he plays this weekend or not. He's good to go.
So I'm trying to find this injury report that I had yesterday. I don't know what I did with it, but I found this injury report that it really opened up my eyes as to, it was a lot deeper, right? It went in to a lot more specifics about the injuries for the Commanders and their time to return. Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. So injury report for the Commanders. Noah Brown, wide receiver, has a torso injury. He's obviously on IR. He's not expected to return until January 26th. So that's after this weekend. Jamison Crowder, wide receiver, he has a hamstring injury. He was questionable for this week's game, January 18th. Zach Ertz has a torso rib injury. He's also questionable. Cleveland Farrell has a knee injury, defensive end, questionable. Jordan Maggie, linebacker, has a hamstring injury. He's questionable. Tyler Owens, safety, he has an ankle injury. He's on IR. Deron Payne, defensive tackle, has an arm and finger injury. He's questionable. Norrell Pollard and Austin Seibert, they are both on IR. Remember Austin Seibert, kicker, former Detroit Lion. Mm-hmm. Ben Sano, tight end, has an arm and shoulder injury. He's questionable. Bobby Wagner, this is the big one. He has a leg and ankle injury. He's questionable. I'm expecting that if Bobby can run, he's going to play.
And did you see that Bobby Wagner and Jordan Maggie, they both were non-participants in practice?
Yeah. But what I'm saying is if he can run, he's going to play. I think that they're probably going to be giving him a little bit more rest to get healthy this week. And the non-participant type of rest and rehab that they really need to get up and get going. So that's your injury report for this weekend's game so far. That's Wednesday's latest. Today is Thursday, so we'll find out more today of what's going on with these guys. So what do we have going on in the chat right now? Anything?
Just a lot of people asking about Rakestraw, talking about Rakestraw. Next year is a completely different situation with Rakestraw. And some people asking why, we drafted 2 cornerbacks. The thing about Rakestraw and Arnold is this. I think the Lions are confident in both of them. It's just Rakestraw, due to a few of these hamstring issues, he's been on IR, twice this year, I think. And he's had to miss some games. He's had to miss quite a bit. And it just kind of cast him aside for now. I think he'll be fine going into the future. When he was in, I thought he played pretty decent, especially in the preseason. He's a kid that I really look forward to seeing in year 2 and year 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that he's really a project. I think he just needs some time, man. He's missed this. He's missed this entire season.
We got a Washington Commander person in the chat. Goff incoming 3 interception game.
Hey, that's all right, Roy. I mean, it's cool. Welcome into the show. So there was a lot of shade being thrown at Goff on this Rio Robinson character, and I was going to bring it in today, but I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going after this dude, right? I'm gonna have to highlight what he said, and I'm gonna turn it upside down. But he's basically saying that Goff is trash. Goff is a nobody. Goff, was a bridge, right? Nobody likes Goff. Goff is garbage. I mean, just saying all this wild, crazy stuff. That Goff is not a good quarterback. That Jaden Daniels is better. That Goff is a systems guy. That Goff can't do anything without all these other players, and that he couldn't do what Jaden's doing on a team that is, deficit of talent. Okay. Hasn't Goff been on all of those teams that you just stated and done stuff with it? Yeah, he's got good players right now, but he's been doing this stuff with rookies. Rookies he's been bringing up through the ranks. Not all these high-flying guys, right? St. Brown was a 4th-round guy.
Yep.
Last year, Jameer was a rookie. Laporta was a rookie. So he's doing stuff with rookies. See, it's not like he's got these, 8-9-year vets in the league that are all pros. No. Those guys, he's turning into all pros. He's not playing with all pros from the beginning. He had nobody on the roster in 21. Nobody. Had a few people on the roster in 22. Not many. It wasn't until 23 and 24 that Jared Goff started to get some real weapons around him. And these guys have been rookies. So the fact that he's doing what he's doing with rookies, I think, is more impressive than what any other quarterback is doing with the talent they have on their roster, because he has built these guys, into who they are. Not taking anything away from Jameer, not taking anything away from Amon-Ra, not taking anything away from, Montgomery or anybody else on the team. There's a reason why these guys are also successful. It's a two-way street here. They have to do their job, but if Goff doesn't do his, they can't do their job. Does that make sense? I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Goff is so much better than anyone gives him credit for. And it's and that might be the biggest reason why Goff is my favorite player. I'll be there Saturday with my Goff jersey on, and I'll be cheering Jared Goff right along with the rest of us, all 65,000 of us.
This Roy Williams dude says Goff has the best O-line in league. Actually, it's the 4th best. Yeah. But let me remind you of something. In 2023 and in 2022, the Detroit Lions used more than 8 different starting lineups on the offensive line. Many games, we had our top guys out. I don't even know if Penei Sewell missed a game. He might have been one of the only ones, but not having your all-pro center in for multiple games, your left tackle and Taylor Decker out for many games, Jonah Williams missing a ton of games. All of them did. Holly Paluti Vaitai didn't even play last year. Missed a ton of games the year before, too. So don't tell me Goff has the best O-line. What you should understand is we have the best O-line coach that is putting these guys into the position to win. But Jared Goff is done what he has done with a very banged-up offensive line. Yeah, they're playing great football, but he hasn't had a consistent offensive line. This year is about, I don't know, maybe the most consistent season the offensive line has played together. Maybe in his tenure in Detroit so far as a quarterback. But again, Goff does these things with rookies and turns these guys into machines. If Goff doesn't do his job, they can't do theirs. And Harpazzo, I'm gonna highlight your comment. We can't fix stupid. We just can't. And if you think that Goff is if Goff is a bad quarterback, if you feel that way, I'm sorry. Keep putting that chip right here for him. Right?
Yeah.
Just keep doing it, because if you do, he's going to take it, he's going to turn it into a boulder, and then he's going to go throw a perfect game on Saturday night and just wipe the floor at the Commanders.
Yeah. So tell me, how many games did Jaden Daniels have going a perfect 18 of 18 for the game? I'll wait.
Or hey,
No.
did he have any perfect passer ratings this year?
Yeah. How many games did he have with a 75% or better passer rating?
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah. I'd love to hear that. Did he throw for 4,500 or more yards this year? That Jaden Daniels guy? I don't
How about
think
3
so.
years in a row?
Yeah. And yes, every quarterback except for Matt Stafford runs for more yards than Jared Goff. Jared Goff has 61. Matt Stafford has 54 this year. So
here's a key stat for everybody just to park in your memory bank. Tom Brady, and I'm not comparing Tom Brady to Jared Goff or vice versa. Tom Brady averaged 29 rushing yards per year, per season, not per game, per season. And he won 7 Super Bowls. He was one of the most affluent passers of the game. And he was smart, right? A little bit of geek up here to be smart enough to decipher what the defenses are doing. It takes a special brain as a quarterback, which Jaden obviously has, to decipher a defense in less than 3 seconds. Jared usually does it on less than 2.8 seconds. It's his average. So I'm not worried one bit. Jaden Daniels on the big stage, though. Let's talk about that next.
Yep.
Did Jaden Daniels step up on this big stage? That's a question that has been asked. A little bit more of the wild card weekend thoughts about Jaden Daniels. Some quick outs in his first ever postseason installment. As the quarterback of the Commanders. Do we celebrate what Jaden Daniels did this weekend, right? Or do you, as a Commanders fan? Probably. Now his quarterback charting, not great. Against the Tampa Bay Bucs, it kind of tells a story of his entire season. All of the ups, the downs, the ability to overcome adversity came to the forefront on a bigger stage this last weekend. Now he won the game, another fourth quarter comeback, good for him. But when you look at his passing chart, at the line of scrimmage or behind, he is perfect. Perfect. Of course you would be. Should be. From 0 to 10 yards, he's 8 of 13 in the center of the field. On the left side, he's 2 of 4. On the right side, he's 1 of 2. Now, from 10 to 20, he was 4 for 4 with 2 touchdowns. That's a good mark. He threw nothing to the left beyond 10 yards. He only threw 1 to the right beyond 10 yards. And then beyond 20 yards, he was 1 for 1 on the left, nothing down the center, and 0 for 1 on the right. So what I see here is I see a quarterback that is going to dink and dunk his way down the field. That is not going to work against the Lions. If you can't get vertical and separate the Lions defense this weekend, we're going to shut you down. I'm sorry. If you can't get the ball into that 20 and beyond mark more than a few times this weekend, it's not good. If you're getting between the 10 and 20 quite often, well, that's something that we're going to have to work with. But that's where the Lions seem to do the meat of their business. And when we get into the red zone, that's when we shut teams down. And that's something that Jaden Daniels hasn't gone up against this season. He has not gone up against a really good team in the red zone, which the Detroit Lions defense has been. I don't care what they do 20 to 20. You give up a few yards, you get a couple of, burst runs, great. But once you get into the red zone, that's where the buck stops. Literally. It's going to stop. Jaden Daniels just hasn't been great, from all facets of the passing game. He's relying too heavily on his legs. And he's not like Josh Allen that he's throwing these off-schedule throws 30 yards downfield like he did against the Lions. Could Jaden do it? I'm sure he could. Does he have the arm to do it? Absolutely does. Throws a beautiful ball. But I think that this is going to separate Daniels from everybody else this weekend, where he's just not completing the passes at the bigger level that he's going to need to beat the Lions. Because without that, we pretty much lock it up everywhere else. Not all the records are going to show that. Not all the stats are going to show that. But when you really watch how the Lions defense operates, it's true. We shut you down, anything under 15 yards. So stat check tells me that Jaden Daniels is going to have his hands full this weekend as long as we can corral, right? We got to have controlled chaos. We got to corral Jaden, and we have to be able to contain him. Now, the one thing that I noticed about the Tampa Bay Bucks is they had 4 or 5 guys with eyes on Jaden, and they did a really good job at trying to keep him corralled as much as they could, but they didn't do a good enough job. They didn't have, guys in the right position all the time. So what is the real story? What is the real story for Jaden Daniels in his second playoff game as a rookie? Well, that'll be defined on Saturday night. Any quick takes before we get into Dan Orlovsky and Jason McCourty?
Yeah, we were talking off air before this all started, and we were talking about what if Baker Mayfield doesn't fumble that ball?
Mm-hmm.
Then Jaden Daniels doesn't win his first playoff game, and the whole Jaden Daniels won the game thing isn't even a topic or a narrative. The narrative is completely changed from Jaden won the game to, man, Jaden just couldn't get it done in his first NFL playoff, not playing any differently. It's just with that fumble, I think that changed the narrative of the whole game and the whole playoffs.
Well, I think, yeah, exactly. It changed the narrative because, again, if it's not the fumble and if it's not the doink, then the pressure is too large. It's too much for this rookie. Great season. You couldn't measure up when you needed to. And that's what changed the narrative, like you're saying, for Jaden Daniels, because now everybody's on the Jaden Daniels train where they were on Caleb Williams' ball sack this entire offseason, making the wrong choice. And now they're trying to hitch their wagon to Jaden Daniels. Hey, I mean, my wagon was hitched to Jaden Daniels from the beginning of the year.
Yep.
In the preseason. I knew what this kid was all about. But now, I'm sorry. He's a great quarterback. He's just not going to have enough experience this season to be able to go any further. I still think he's a phenomenal quarterback, and I think he's going to have a bright future. Just not Saturday night. I'm sorry. Just not Saturday night.
Yeah. So Roy Williams, Baker was perfect, bro. He almost went 18 for 18. Well, almost isn't.
What game? What game?
Yeah. What game he do that? He didn't go perfect. I can tell you that. So almost perfect and perfect are two completely different things when it comes to an NFL quarterback throwing in the NFL against another team.
Well, let me point this out real quick, Eric. So,
yeah,
they always say that almost counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right?
Yeah.
There's a big difference between a Jared Goff perfect game and an RPO quarterback perfect game, because in the RPO, it's 2-3 yard passes. It's behind the line of scrimmage where there's no DBs, right? You're not throwing into deep coverage. You're not throwing into double teams. You're not throwing into tight windows. That's the difference. Jared Goff is throwing the ball downfield. He's not throwing it in these little chunks, which are easy completions. That's what people don't get here. Throwing a perfect game, one, it's hardly ever been done, right? Goff is like one of 4 quarterbacks to ever do it. At the clip, he's broken all the NFL records from that respect. But it's the way that he did it. It's where he was placing the ball, how far, downfield he was targeting his receivers. He's not just throwing it 2 yards to his right to a running back. He's not throwing it 8 yards to his right or to his left on a bubble screen or a quick hitch or a dagger route across. It's downfield. Big difference here between Jared Goff and Jaden Daniels. Now, I will say this. I mean, Jaden Daniels obviously is a much better quarterback when it comes to running. I mean, the broken giraffe is a broken giraffe for a reason. But he just doesn't have the experience that Jared Goff does. And for anybody that doubts Jared Goff, look, he came into a very crap situation with the Rams in his first season, was thrown to the Wolves the last 7 games of the year. And then after that, he leads his team to a Super Bowl. And now in his first season with the Lions, same situation. No team. The last 3 years, nothing but better stats, better play, leading his team to an almost Super Bowl in his 3rd season, and now back to it again in his 4th season. You can't deny Jared Goff's playoff record. You can't. You just can't deny it.
Yep. And then you were talking a little bit earlier about our bend but don't break type defense versus the Commanders coming up this Saturday. Well, I have a stat for you, and I'm wondering if this would surprise people. If I told you that the Detroit Lions defense had the most games this season without letting the opposing offense score a touchdown, how many do you think it would be? And
how many games?
Yeah, how many games
3.
did the Detroit Lions not allow a touchdown? Nope, that's not the answer.
This year?
Yep, this year.
There was at least 3 games.
Okay.
Was there 4?
Yes, 4.
What was the 4th game?
The Detroit Lions led the league in games without letting the opponent score a touchdown. The Detroit Lions had 4. There were 4 teams with 3, 5 teams with 2, a bunch of teams with 1, and a bunch of teams with 0. And one of those teams that allowed a touchdown in every single game this season was none other than the Washington Commanders.
I'm not surprised. So what are the 4 games? Do you remember the 4 games?
I mean, I'd have to look back, but this was put out on a thing on Twitter that I was looking at yesterday, and I thought that was pretty amusing that the Lions, for having such a horrible defense, as some people put it, I think it's great. It's number 7 in scoring, and that's where I wanted to be. I go with scoring when it comes to defense. I don't care about how many yards we give up, especially when we play that bend but don't break, give them all the yards they want. But when we get down to inside the 20, we stiffen up and we don't allow them to score points. So it's just this whole narrative. People can take the narrative of, oh man, they give up so many yards. They're the worst defense in the world. They're number 30. But then you look at the scoring defense and we're number 7. We're top 10 in scoring. So are we a top 10 defense or are we the 30th ranked defense? It's all about the narrative that you want to pick to make it happen.
If I can remember correctly, I think that the Commanders have been giving up at least 23 points per game.
Yep.
At least.
Yeah, that's their season average is 23.
So where does the 28.5 come in? Because I thought it was 23.
Oh, here, let me look real quick. I can tell you the scoring defense.
But there was another stat that came out that says 28.5, and I don't know what the hell that's from.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. But anyway, we're gonna move on to once you get that, we'll move on. But
so scoring defense, the Lions are number 7 at 20.1. And then the Commanders are 18th at 23 points per game.
Yeah, you lose a lot of games when you give up a lot of points. All right, so here we go real quick. Before we move on, I want to give you guys a gift and an idea here of the type of people we like to partner with, and that is Dutch Pet. If you guys don't know about Dutch Pet and you've got little furry friends at home, give them a shout out today. Hit the link below in the description. Get your $50 coupon from Rocked On to save on your annual subscription. So I just ordered prescriptions yesterday for my dog, and you want to talk about great service. I mean, they have, expedited services, but if you need your medications quicker, they'll send it right to Costco, and you can go pick it up from your local Costco or a different pharmacy if there's no Costco around. But Dutch Pet, man, you get same-day access to licensed vets, unlimited vet visits and follow-ups, guaranteed low prescription prices. They will match or beat any price out there. And you get all this for less than the cost of one vet visit to your in-town vet, right? I know it's an average of $150 per vet visit just to bring your pup in or your cat or whatever you have. $82 right now with the $50 coupon. You get a whole year's worth of online vet visits. They've really revolutionized telemedicine for your pets. Get the care for your pet that they deserve right in the comfort of your own home. Don't drag your pets to the vet, put them through all that anxiety. Leave them on the couch. Call Dutch Pet. Set up a meeting with them online on the app. It's a great app. It's easy to use, and get the care that you need for your dog or your cat or your lizard, whatever you got today. So anyway, let's move on here to the second half. We're way late, but
we started late.
That's all right. So let's move on to national media and what they're saying. So I think that the first people that I want to highlight here is going to be NFL Live from yesterday. I'll bring in the audio. I'm not going to play the video, otherwise we'll have a problem. So let's do that. Let's hear what they had to say. So they're going to highlight linebackers. They're going to highlight mismatches. They're going to talk about, Jaden, how he's great at throwing to, receivers open, which I agree, and some other things.
The Commanders face the Lions on Saturday. Dan, the Lions have struggled to contain running quarterbacks this season. They rank next to last, allowing more than 6 yards per rush to quarterbacks, and only the Jets and Cowboys allowed more rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels has run for 927 yards this season, including the playoffs. And by the way, that was breaking an NFL rookie record, formerly held by another Washington quarterback, Robert Griffin III, in 2012. Here's Lions coach Dan Campbell on defending mobile quarterbacks.
I know this, running quarterbacks are hard. They're hard to defend. And somebody tells you that we don't handle running quarterbacks very well. Well, tell me the team that does. And I'm not going to name a team because then somebody will come back and say, why did you name that team? You're trying to deal with a guy like this over there. They're not easy to stop, and there's a reason for that. Look, we know we got our hands full, but we're going to have a plan in place. AG's going to have a hell of a plan. And you know what? He may make a run. He may pop a run or two. That's just the nature of the game and the way that some of these guys are able to maneuver, but that doesn't mean that you win the game.
J-Mac, what have you seen on tape from this Lions defense against running quarterbacks?
Dan Campbell is right. It is hard. When you go against a Lamar Jackson and some of these guys, a Jaden Daniels, you come in as a defender, and it's a brand new plan to stop these guys because they bring something different to the table. And the Lions are a team under Aaron Glenn that they love to play man-to-man. And when you're man, you have your eyes on your luggage, as we used to say. You're covering your guy. So when the quarterback takes off, there's not a guy assigned to the quarterback. So you see right here, Josh Allen against the Lions takes off. The safety, Kirby Joseph, is the first guy to touch him. This is Anthony Richardson. You're going to see it again. Man-to-man across the board. Tight end and running back both go to the right. The two linebackers and the safety, they both flow that way. So now you have two pullers coming around leading for Anthony Richardson. There's nobody there to see the pullers. You have to have eyes. This is Tampa Bay a week ago. Watch the amount of eyes that are on Jaden Daniels when he pulls this ball. They're running an option. It's him and Austin Eckler, two guys for the 5 defenders of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that all have eyes on Jaden Daniels. So as much as possible as a defense, it can't just be one guy assigned to the quarterback, because a Jaden Daniels in space, if you only have one guy out there and there's no edge, he's going to make that guy look silly and make him miss. So for the Lions, a team that loves to blitz, they love to play man-to-man, who do you have that is accounting for Jaden Daniels on every single play?
Yeah. I'm looking at the Commanders' offense going against the Lions' defense, and where I think there's an opportunity is for these running backs for the Commanders. Now, when you watch that same Bills game you pulled up and you saw the success they had both on the ground, but more specifically Ty Johnson out of the backfield in the receiving game, I feel like that's something that you got to try to exploit, because what you're going to do is you're going to use pre-snap shifts and motions to have these matchup problems for the running backs and the linebackers. In this one, you're going to have that same man-to-man, and all the defenders are on the same level. They run a pick play for Ty Johnson down the sideline. They even got to that through the shifts and motions to make sure they're in the position they need. Austin Eckler, I think, could be someone to take a look at when you're looking at it receiving out of the backfield. And for that run game, Robinson, those guys have to get going because they didn't give us much last week in the wild card round.
I mean, Pony, the two back set. I mean, this team runs it. Washington offensively, they run it more than anybody in the NFL. I would say that they have the most success with it out of anybody in the NFL. I'm in the same thought process. I mean, look at it. They've run 90 plays essentially this year with Pony. Pony is having 2 tailbacks on the field, 2 halfbacks on the field. So you're talking about Brian Robinson and an Austin Eckler at the same time. Almost 700 yards of their offense came this year off that. 7.7 yards per play. So it's not just one of those guys. I think putting both of them on the field, again, a little bit like Buffalo, because if you're Detroit, now Anzalone being back, Anzalone didn't play in that Buffalo game, right? And so there is him being there is a big deal. But if you're thinking about like the combo of Jaden's legs, both broken and designed plays, with having to cover those two backs with backers, they present a legit threat to a defense that wants to your guys' point, like play man coverage. Yeah. It's advantage Washington in that regard.
Listen to you. Sorry, Nick. You didn't make the cut.
To listen to you.
We liked what you said, though.
All right. So, I mean, there's a few things to take out of this. And again, I would love to play the video because they have some really nice breakdowns in there. And one of the breakdowns is showing the Tampa Bay linebackers or the middle of the backfield there, eyes on Jaden. And that is exactly what I speak to when I talk about the chest forward theory, where no matter what you're doing on your defense, if you're in man or zone or combo thereof, somebody has to have their eyes on the quarterback. And that's why in this game particularly, or the Arizona Cardinals game, or, any game the Lions are taking on a, dual threat quarterback, but one that especially uses an RPO system, you have to play contain. You cannot play to sack. You have to play to contain. If you sell out, there was another video that I wanted to highlight, and maybe I can do that tonight if I get enough time, but it was talking about Aiden Hutchinson and in how, he was terrible against the RPO because he would get too deep too quickly. And it was highlighting Kyler Murray, I think, in that video. And Kyler would just squirt around him because he wasn't containing. He was trying to sack. And I think that Aiden's grown a lot. I think he's definitely grown a lot because we've seen him, make some of those plays where he's more contained and he's not just going after the quarterback. But this is a game specifically. You cannot let Jaden get outside. If he wants to have some off-schedule stuff, great. But you're going to have to force him to use his arm. And then that means that our DBs and our safeties and everybody downfield, they should be able to do their job, especially the way that this game is matching up. But the one thing that I really wanted to know in here, when McCourty was talking about, you got to have your eyes on your luggage, right, when you're in man defense, that's exactly the problem that the Lions were facing when, you're in man-to-man, so your eyes are on your receiver, on your assignment, and your chest isn't forward. So that's where we need to have some guys that are playing more of a zone scheme, an alert scheme, or a QB spy that, you've got guys assigned to make sure that Jaden can't get out. And if you start with the edge rushers or the ends, right, defensive ends, I think that's where this defense begins this weekend. Same thing that I said about Minnesota, same similar defense that they need to run with more DBs in the game. But it's a little different because Darnold is not a guy we're worried about RPO with. Darnold was not a guy we're worried about getting, loose with his legs and then being able to still throw the ball downfield, when he gets a window. Is Jaden great at throwing receivers open? He is. And that is one of the things that I loved about his tape in the beginning of, my draft process. He throws his guys open and he puts the ball in an area where it leads them away from the DBs. And they may not get a bunch of yak. They typically don't. But it at least gives them an opportunity to complete a pass. So from that perspective, these DBs are going to have to be sticky. And this is where a zone is going to be a little bit more important to keeping those types of plays limited. The O-line. This is another thing about this game matchup between the Lions and the Commanders. The Commanders' offensive line, and what we're noticing in that pony that Orlovsky had mentioned, which is a 2 running back set, they're using double chips often. So why would you want to rush the quarterback when you're going to get double and triple chipped, right? You might get double teamed and then double chipped. You might get double teamed, a free release, and then a chip. So that's what they utilize a lot to try to keep Jaden upright. And once his legs start moving and you've already been chipped and taken out of the play, that's where he gets outside. So if you're rushing the quarterback and you're trying to get a sack, they're going to use it against us. They're going to allow you to get in. They may not even block you. The play is going to go the other way. So contain is what I took out of this video. I think that they hit a few things spot on. And if you have a chance to go watch NFL Live from yesterday and watch this video, it's I don't know. I think it's a third of the way in when they start talking about the Lions. Great information, great video highlights, and them showing exactly what needs to be done. Anything you took away from this?
Yeah. So narrative, like I was talking about earlier. narrative is so easy to change on a team to be able to take the same information and talk negatively about them or talk positively about them. So I was looking while this was going on, and I'm like, how many mobile quarterbacks did we face this year, or that they consider mobile quarterbacks? And that is subjective in itself. You know, for them to put these stats up that we've allowed the most touchdowns, the mobile quarterbacks, and all this other stuff they were talking about, you know. So looking at the quarterbacks we faced this year, I can say that Kyler Murray was a mobile quarterback, but did they consider Geno Smith a mobile quarterback? We shut him down.
Yeah, he's mobile for sure.
He didn't do too much. All right. So there's
last year he tore us apart.
So Kyler Murray, he didn't do so hot against us. They scored 13 points. And then Sam Darnold, wasn't he considered a mobile quarterback?
I mean, he's okay. So let's make a couple of buckets here.
Yeah.
Dual threat is Jaden Daniels, right? Dual threat is Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Geno used to be dual threat. He's more what I consider mobile.
Okay.
And then Sam is mobile. He's not a dual threat.
What about Jordan Love then?
He's in between.
All right.
So they don't scheme. They don't scheme to Jordan's legs. Like it's the same thing about mobile quarterback. Like your legs are last. That's what I always used to call it. Your legs are your last resort, right? That's what Jordan Love is. But he can still hurt you with his legs because he's still young. He's still quick. But they're not scheming to his legs first. They're scheming to his legs last. Whereas Jaden Daniels, they're scheming to the legs as a first option out of the RPO options. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what my point is like there's CJ Stroud, there's Anthony Richardson, there's Caleb Williams, there's Josh Allen. We've faced Brock Purdy. We've faced a bunch of these mobile quarterbacks this year.
Well, Josh Allen's definitely dual threat.
Yes, and that's the one where they cherry pick the stats to pull, oh, this is where they were allowing all of this to this and all of this to this. That's where they're getting it all from, is from that one game. And what were we missing on that one game? We were missing Alex Anzalone.
Mm-hmm.
We had horrible linebacker play in that game. We only lost by 6 points. If our offense could have got their stuff together in that first quarter, that might have been a different game altogether.
So here's where I'm at with this. If I'm Aaron Glenn, now we know that Aaron Glenn, his first priority is stop the run. Make him more one-dimensional. Well, with an RPO, I've said this before this season, you are 1.5 dimensions always, because you have a quarterback that can use his legs. That is the extra half a dimension. So when you have, a quarterback like Jared Goff, the way that you make the Lions more truly one-dimensional is taking away the run game. You got to make Jared beat you with his arm, or the other way around. You take away, the pass game, you make us beat you, on the ground. But for a guy that is a dual threat, he is always 1.5. He just has that extra, he has the opportunity to go off schedule. So Josh Allen, you're exactly right. They cherry picked a lot of stats, but the Lions linebacker play, to your point, was so terrible. And if I'm Aaron Glenn in this game, I'm going to say, look, we're not the same team that we were against the Seahawks. We're not the same team that we were against, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. We are the same team that we were against the Bills. Yes, we have Alex back. Is that enough? And instead of trying to shut down the run completely, I think I would say, let's contain, right? Let's give up just a little bit on the ground. If we're going to give up, 4 yards of play or less, I'm good with that on the ground. Maybe they go more than 100 yards on the ground with the running backs. I'm good with that, as long as they're not letting Jaden get outside, as long as they're not letting Jaden go off schedule. That I'm good with. So what I mean by that is the Bills game, what did Turner and the other linebackers do? They bit. And then if it was play action, they're done. They're cooked on the inside. And then Josh either just pulls the ball back and fires it downfield, or he zooms outside and he throws it 30 yards downfield over and over and over again. But the thing that came out of that game was the mismatches that Jason McCourty just mentioned in that video. which is the mismatches on the linebackers with the running backs. And, as Orlovsky said, the pony, right, that they've got 2 running backs back there.
Yep.
Now you have 2 mismatches. If both of those guys release and they get upfield, that's where we're going to have trouble. Let me say, that's where most teams would have trouble. If Aaron Glenn is going to do what I think he should do, which I'm not always correct, right? You're going to have a similar defense that you had against Minnesota. It is 5 and 6 DBs in this game, 3 safeties, 3 corners, right? Or 3 safeties, 2 corners all the time. 2 linebackers on the field. You don't need 3. You go to 4 down linemen. You have your edges contained. Your linebackers are now going to stay right in those middle zones. You don't let anything come out of the middle. So if Jaden's moving around, you're going left, you're going right. Alex going left, Jack's going right, whatever. You don't let anything come out of the middle. By keeping those ends there, that does help the linebackers in those immediate flat zones. And then if you have 3 safeties in, you can bring 1 up now behind the linebackers. I need to get my screen up. You can have 1 up behind the linebackers. Then you have the other 2 kind of in that 2 deep zone, right? The 2 high safety that can then stop McLaurin, De'Ami Brown, Chase Brown, whoever. Look, if they can't get the ball to McLaurin, it's going to be tough sledding for them. And I think that they're going to be able to shut down McLaurin pretty easily, just like they did Justin Jefferson. And that's part of the plan. So this is a very fluid, difficult scheme to run, but it can work. It really can, but it is difficult. Like, there's so much going on here. And I'm nowhere near as smart as these guys that are putting these schemes together. So from a very layman's terms perspective, it is 6 DBs, 5 DBs, 3 safeties, 2 corners. The reason why I want a bigger safety in is to help in the run game, to bring that guy down, to back up the linebackers and also fill in that center zone where Jaden Daniels is throwing the ball. So if you keep somebody parked right there at that 12-yard zone, Jaden has nowhere to go because he doesn't throw it outside left or right very often. So that's my whole plan with that. Any comments on that?
Yeah. So I have more of a question. So if you were the Commanders, wouldn't you watch that Bills game and try to emulate that Bills game as much as you can?
Well, I hope they do, because I think that Aaron Glenn has already got these guys prepped for that game. I think that after that game happened, Aaron Glenn probably wanted to burn that tape, but he probably wanted to burn it into their brains to say, these were the problems that we faced. This can't happen. And the way that you preach it for this game is patience, patience, patience. You guys have to be patient. Don't bite. I understand you want to make a big play. You want a TFL. You want a sack, whatever. But it is that style of mentality of being overly aggressive that is going to get you in trouble. Who cares about yards? Who cares about stats in this game? We know Dan doesn't care. Just win the game. Who cares if you give up, a few extra yards on the ground? Who cares if you give up a few yards in the pass game? It's just making sure that you limit what Jaden Daniels is able to do, which is the reason why the Commanders have been winning. It's the off-schedule bull crap that we can't allow to happen.
Yep.
So, all right. Next up, just reading a few chats here to see if there's anything I want to throw in.
The one thing in the chat I saw, somebody asked about Broadrick Martin.
What was the question?
They're just wondering if he's going to be in his tracksuit for Sunday, or if he's actually going to play. So I
don't think Broderick's going to be playing.
Yeah, I don't either. And a lot of people are asking, was that the one that, Brad Holmes, did he finally flub up on a draft pick? No GM is going to get every single draft pick right. And this is one where, we might just have to get a little more time, but it's not looking so great for old Broadrick Martin right now.
Broderick's fine. He's a 3-year project. I'm not going to judge Broderick until next season. He was never really brought in to be this, game wrecker, if you will. Now, He was having a really good preseason, and then he got derailed because of the injury. And I think that he's a very solid backup. He's never going to be the starter. And now that you got DJ Reader on this team and others like Zadarius Smith and guys that he can gravitate to and guys that he can learn from, Broadrick next season is going to totally transform his body again. You know, he did a big transformation from year 1 to year 2. Next, I mean, he's a big dude. I mean, you just don't see guys that size much anymore. One more season of transformation, and Broadrick will be a key player on this team as a role player. He's never going to be, you know, that starting defensive tackle that is taking over games. That's not what he was brought in to be. He was a depth piece. Brad got what he wanted. I mean, when you look at what Brad Holmes has done in all these drafts, tell me another GM that's been better.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, you're talking a handful of All-Pros, a handful of Pro Bowls. He's hit on almost everything. And we only have like one guy that's not on the team now that he's drafted?
Yeah, Lucas.
So, Chase Lucas, there was another one too. He's just done a phenomenal job. The tight end that we brought in. But I think he might be on the practice squad still.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, let's get into Matt Ryan. What does Matt Ryan say about these Detroit Lions and this weekend's game? Let me get this set up here. All right. So Matt Ryan, forget which show he was on. Let's listen to this dude for a minute.
Matt Ryan still here with us. Matt, it feels like the Commanders they found a way to get it done this season every step of the way, but now they're staring up against the Lions waiting for them. Can they keep it competitive, at least against Detroit?
I love the story of the Commanders, but I think they're running into the juggernaut up in Detroit. Jaden Daniels was unbelievable last night. I mean, this dude has no pulse, right? Like he's not even smiling after the field goal doinks in at the end of the game. He just, kind of cold-blooded out there. But I thought he played really, really well from out the gates. I thought they used him well moving around. It's going to require a huge performance from him, whether that's running the football like he did last night, making plays like that, extending plays on the run, accuracy down the middle of the field right here to McLaurin. So I think Detroit's too much for them. Can they keep it competitive? Yeah, I think they can. I mean, there's something about the grit of this team, the toughness. I think Dan Quinn's done a great job of kind of instilling that mindset within his locker room. But Detroit, to me, just has too much firepower. Offense is playing great. The way the defense ended the season, pressuring Sam Darnold, I think they're going to try and have to hit Jaden in early, right? And I think Aaron Glenn's going to be aggressive in this ball game. So I think Detroit takes care of business, but it's awesome to see Washington back, winning playoff games, first time since 2006. It was fun to watch last night.
Dan Campbell and crew will be looking to bite Jaden Daniels' kneecaps off in this one, as he said so many years ago. So this is when you kind of put the proof in the pudding. The other game that is maybe a little unique when it comes to the Vikings and the Rams playing in Arizona due to those wildfires. But on top of that, you got a 14-win team in the wild card round. And on the other side, the Rams, who at one point...
Okay. I don't know why that lingered on there talking about the next game. But anyway... Yep. So Matt Ryan said something kind of opposite of what I'm saying, said something a little bit opposite of what I'm thinking the plan is by AG. Without a doubt, the Lions are always going to be aggressive, but I think that the aggressive nature that Ryan is speaking to is how we're going to get after Jaden Daniels when the opportunity presents itself. So the audio skipped a little bit on this show, and what he had said is he expects the Lions to hit Jaden Daniels early and often. And that is the goal in this game. Rattle him, right? You want to make this dude sore. You want to make him think twice about coming back up, to crossing that line of scrimmage with his legs. So yes, every opportunity you get a chance to smoke this guy, you've got to take it. I don't think the Lions are, going to be like some of these other teams where they're head hunting. I don't think that's the Lions at all. But they're going to take every opportunity they can to hit Jaden Daniels. I just don't think the aggression is going to happen with the defensive ends as often. That doesn't mean that we won't blitz. It doesn't mean that we won't attempt to get a sack. Of course, all of those things are going to happen. But I think that the large majority of this game is going to be controlled by the Detroit Lions being smart, diligent, disciplined, and playing that way the entire game. They have to take their shots when they can get them, right? Take the opportunities when it's presented, but let's not go out of our way at trying to create too much, because that's where Jaden does his best work, honestly. And that's about the last of the flowers I'm going to give that dude. But Ryden says that Jaden needs to be accurate, throwing down the middle of the field. Notice how he said middle of the field? It's because that's where he throws the ball. I mean, the stats don't lie. I mean, his pattern has been pretty much consistent all season. I don't know how teams look at this pattern and say, we're not going to cover that zone. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm hoping that AG is a little bit smarter than the rest of the league and notices the pattern. Detroit being too much. He's 1,000% correct. This offense is going up against the 30th ranked rush defense. And we've got Sonic and Knuckles back, but most importantly, it's Jameer's game. Montgomery had said that. This is Jameer's game. He's going to do what he needs to do to support Jameer and whatever Jameer needs. He was not, how do I say this the right way? He wasn't impressed really by what Gibbs was doing the last few weeks. He knew that's what Gibbs is, that he's a special player and he was going to be making those special plays. Can they keep it competitive? Ryan thinks that they're going to be able to keep it competitive. I don't know what competitive is. Is that staying within 10 points of the Lions? Is that staying within 3 points of the Lions? Is that making it a game coming down to the last possession? I don't know what competitive really is there. Or what he's thinking, because right now Vegas doesn't see this as a competitive game. If you think a 9.5 point difference in this game is competitive, I'd say you're wrong. Detroit taking care of business, I think we will.
Would it surprise you if I told you that the Lions being favored by 9.5 was the biggest spread ever in a divisional playoff game?
Oh, I said that yesterday. It is the largest spread. I've never seen another one higher than this. I mean, we don't even see it during the regular season. That's what's crazy, is you don't see these types of spreads in the regular season, but now a divisional matchup, it's just nuts to me. Detroit having too much firepower, we do. Look, if this goes to a shootout, defense shits the bed, right? The defense doesn't come to play, and they don't play with Anzalone's, I don't know why I keep calling him Anzalone, Anzalone's temperament, which is
everyone wants to be a dog until you got to do some dog shit.
If they're not picking up dog shit tomorrow or doing the dog shit tomorrow, then yeah, if it turns into a race, well, I think that we have a faster boat, honestly. And I think that we're going to be able to win in the end. Expecting AG to hit Daniels early and often has to be, obviously the plan here. When you get the opportunity, take the opportunity. Anything you want to comment here about Matt Ryan?
I think he's pretty spot on that we just have too much horsepower. And that's it. We're 15-2. We're not 12-5 like we were last year. The difference between last year's team and this year's team is this year, when we get up on any opponent, we don't let up now.
Right.
Because last year we let up. This year we don't. We're not beating teams by 3 points. We're beating them by 38 points. The Lions were favored by what was it? 3.5 points against the Vikings in week 18. And we beat them by 22. The Lions are crushing expectations, and they are crushing the souls of these teams. And I see something very similar to week 18 is how this playoff game is going to play out.
So a couple of things from the chat. I see you guys talking about James Houston. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know anything about what James Houston has done this season. After he was gone, the fact that he ended up in Cleveland, I think, was the best place for him. Working with Myles Garrett, I mean, he's going to be. I told you guys this when James finds another team, this guy's going to end up kind of saying, "I told you so" at some point. I have that feeling for James Houston. Trey says patterns don't lie. Plan for the pattern. That's the way that I am. I always look at the patterns, right? And the statistics, they generally point you in the right direction. It's just how you handle it after the fact. Jay-Z says, let's see. Jay-Z says, seeing a lot of people saying that the Detroit Lions need to blitz. But Jaden Daniels excels versus the blitz. That's a fact. So you have to contain and force him to pass into mistakes. If he breaks, then let him know what's up with running. I'm not sure what the last part of that means, Jay-Z, but anyway, you're exactly right, dude. Like, oftentimes the blitz, it gets overutilized, too much glamour put on it, right? And sometimes you just have to sit back and say, showing our strength isn't everything. We just need to be smart. We need to stay disciplined. And you can tend to win more ball games that way by just being smarter than the other team. So, let's see. There was another one in here.
Yeah. And somebody was saying that on some of the books, the line has moved to 10 points. On DraftKings, it's still 9.5. And 79% of all bets are on the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, so Jay-Z said that he saw Jay Gruden and Colt McCoy breakdown of the game yesterday. He talked Washington up pretty much. Well, guess what? Guess who's up next?
Yeah.
Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden's up next. I'll bring him in right now. Now, I didn't do the full thing because it's way too long, but just a part of it here where he's talking about the game. We'll bring them in here right now.
Who did he pick at the end, though?
Well, of course he picked the Lions, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So here we go. Let me bring in Jay Gruden. And it's this button.
The Commanders went on the road and beat a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team with a doink field goal at the end. Still went through. That's all that matters. And they are going to play a rested Detroit Lions football team. Jaden Daniels played his ass off. Jay, do the Commanders have a chance against the Lions?
Let me switch hats for you. All right, here we go. It's autographed by Colt McCoy and Kirk Cousins, and the Robert Griffin one is kind of faded.
Did you scrub that one off?
Let's go. Anyway, yes, they do have a chance. I'll tell you why, because they play great in critical moments, man. They've won 6 games on the last possession. Jaden Daniels or last possession. They've come from behind 6 different times. They're never out of it. This quarterback has a great poise and leadership and command of the offense. Kingsbury and Daniels have a great connection right now. And defensively, I like what Dan Quinn does, man. They're not great by any stretch of the imagination. I don't have any first-team Pro Bowlers, but they play great as a unit. They fly to the football. They tackle well. They're sound in what they do. They don't give up many big plays. So, yeah, they have a chance. It's going to be tough because Detroit, we know, is awesome on offense. We know about their offensive line, their tight ends, their running backs, their quarterbacks playing a high level, their receiving core. They got different types. Jameson Williams can go. Amandre St. Brown can work the inside. They're awesome. I get it. And their defense, Meek Robertson is playing very well at corner. He's going to be matched up with Terry McLaurin most likely, and they'll be able to have shut down the passing game probably. But Zach Ertz, De'Ami Brown, Austin Eckler. The thing about Washington I like is they've used different people in critical situations now. De'Ami Brown had some big plays. Austin Eckler had some big plays. Zach Ertz had some big plays. So they have different guys hurting you in critical situations, which will help them come Detroit Lion Day, which will be a hell of a tough task. But I think Washington will stick with them and be a great game.
Okay, so again, to Eric's point, at the end of this show, obviously he chose the Detroit Lions, and he wanted to give some kudos or a little bit of love here to, his brother's former. Come on, there's a lot of connections here with Jay and the rest of John and everybody else with the the old school Redskins, Colt, RG3. All of them. So I think that here he wanted to give the Commanders a little bit of credit, but he's not speaking out of the left side of his mouth either. Other than when he said he thinks that this game is going to remain kind of close. So was there really anything that you took out of this? This is a quick one, but is there anything that you really took out of this that you wanted to highlight?
Just the fact that they're giving the Commanders some flowers. They are, and they deserve it. The Commanders have done an admirable job with a rookie and a team that was horrible last year. And that's fine. They've come out of the ashes. They're like the Lions. They're on kind of the same arc. But what did I talk about that arc earlier? You have to get some punches first. You have to have some defeats in the playoffs before you come in and make it all the way through. So unfortunately, this just isn't the Commanders' year.
So I want to dig into, the wide receiver for just a moment, Terry McLaurin. And I think that this is a big statement on what's going to happen in this game. So Terry McLaurin was targeted on a career high of 28.7% of his routes and averaged 2.8 yards per route when facing off man coverage, right? 5+ yards of cushion. This season, right? He was the 7th most among wide receivers with at least 150 such routes. So for whatever reason, all the other teams going up against the Commanders this year played a lot of off man on McLaurin. When this is a team that runs an RPO, typically you're in an off man, style of a defense because you're trying to contain, you're trying to have eyes everywhere. But for whatever reason, they didn't do the rest of the business against the Commanders, which is try to figure out a way to limit Terry McLaurin. So even though he faced a little bit of press coverage, which was less than 1 yard of cushion, he had a career low of 30.5% of his routes where he recorded an 18.1% target rate, and he averaged 1.2 yards per route when facing press. So it is 1/3 of the amount of yards per route when he's in press versus off man. It was the 6th fewest yards among wide receivers with at least 100 such routes this season. So the matchup in this game is the Lions on the outside when they're aligned in a press man on 37.8% of the snaps, which is the 6th highest rate of the NFL this season. Terry McLaurin's going to have a bad day because it clearly shows, again, by patterns and by stats, that when he's covered in a press situation, he's terrible. So I think that's the key. You want to press Terry. You can play off man on Diami or Chase or whomever, right? You're dropping in that third safety over the backs of the linebackers, covering the middle with Zach Ertz, which we know Zach Ertz limited. He was with us for a couple of weeks last year. And I think that that's how you have to scheme this up. You need to put a safety on Ertz, or you need to have a safety shade over Terry McLaurin possibly. But we're talking Terry McLaurin. It's not like he's a world beater wide receiver. He's just not. I mean, he's not an Amon-Ra St. Brown, let's put it that way. And speaking of Amon-Ra St. Brown, he put out the word this week that, hey, the Commanders have a receiver on their team that you guys took before me, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I'm going to remember that on Saturday night. So I'm looking for Amon-Ra St. Brown to have an incredible night. And I'm hoping it comes to fruition. So Terry McLaurin, I mean, like I said, he's not like he's a world beater. He's had excellent seasons, while he's been in the league. He's had 1,000 or more yards since 2020. He's averaged about 13.9 yards per reception, 38 TDs in his career. This is the first year that he's had double-digit TDs in his career with 13. Other than that, he averaged about 5 or less per season. And that's why I feel like this is going to be a game that he's going to go back to being the peasant wide receiver that he was and not getting any touchdowns in this game because the Lions are going to lock him up. I don't see another way that it doesn't happen. I really don't. Let's see. On the Lions defensive side of the football again, among all rookie quarterbacks this season, since 2016, Jaden Daniels ranks first in completions, 101. Passing yards, 1,282. Touchdowns, he had 12, tied for first. Completion percentage, 65.6%. And a passer rating of 114.7 against the blitz. Now, we know that the Lions like to blitz. So, again, this is another reason why Aaron Glenn can't really blitz in this game. Just can't. Even though we've been one of the best teams blitzing and what other quarterbacks have not been able to do against the blitz, Daniels does great against the blitz because of the RPO. So when you have all these people thinking that the Lions should blitz, get after the quarterback, send the edges, get a ton of sacks, whatever, it doesn't work. And Daniels, again, by patterns and stats, has proven to you it doesn't work. And he's a rookie. Where is he going to be in the next 3, 4, 5 years? This dude's going to be an amazing quarterback in the NFL, as long as his feet don't get him in trouble and end his career early, like happened with RG3 and others. So again, I just want to throw it out there. I don't think that the Lions need to blitz a ton. I think it's be smart, right? Be savvy, mix up your coverages, mix up your blitzes, mix up your schemes, disguise, and put speed on the field. If you put speed on the field against speed, you're going to have a better opportunity at winning this game. If you don't put speed on the field against Jaden Daniels and McLaurin and everybody else, then you're going to have a difficult game. It's just the way it's going to go. Jaden Daniels has 79 scramble runs this season, the most by any quarterback in a season since 2016. He's gained a league-high 600 yards and scored once on those scrambles, but it resulted in the second highest success rate of 70.9% among quarterbacks with at least 25 scramble runs in a season. He scrambled 14 times out of empty formations for 163 yards, recording 6 explosive gains of 10-plus yards and converted 9 first downs. That's another reason why you can't press this guy with a blitz. You send the house, and he's going to find the hole. So, again, let's be smart. Let's be disciplined. And I expect AG just to do that. Absolutely. Eric, what are your comments on that?
So here's a little thing that's going to fit perfectly into the narrative that you are putting out there and that you've been saying forever. So Jaden Daniels played the New Orleans Saints this year. The Commanders gave up 8 sacks to the Saints. He was sacked 8 times in that game. But he did not throw an interception. He did not have a fumble, did not have a turnover. The Commanders had the ball for 40 minutes in that game compared to 20 minutes for the Saints. And the Commanders won that game 20-19. So sacks are not the be-all, end-all. We don't need to sack Jaden Daniels. We need to intercept Jaden Daniels. We need to contain him. We need to control the clock and control the ball. If we can win the time of possession, I believe we win this game going away.
I hear you. I agree with all that. I do. We got to get Jaden Daniels to make mistakes. We just do. Too accurate of a thrower of the football. I mean, really accurate. He focuses on the middle of the field, and I think that is a major negative against Jaden. That's where he's focusing the football. But I feel like, we have Kirby, right? And we'll get into more of this tomorrow. We've got Kirby back there. We've got Branch back there. We got guys that can get after the football. And I think just for that reason alone, we need to put those guys into a position of winning, right? Put them in a position of success. And if you're constantly blitzing, you are putting your DBs in a position of, oh shit, you're constantly having to cover and then expecting Jaden to get the ball out quickly, which means you've got to be sticky, which I think our guys are sticky enough. I mean, Terry and Arnold on the second receiver on the team has been a very big surprise this season. When they made the switch in the week 18, I think it worked out great. And it's not the only time that, Terrian's been on the number 2. He's been on the number 2 often this season. But I think that this is now Amik Robertson's job to handle McLaurin this weekend. I would be surprised if it's Terrian Arnold. I'm pretty positive it's going to be Amik. And I see a very similar situation like we did in week 18. But to your point there, we have to make him turn the ball over. We need at least one turnover in this game. Maybe. If we get out to a 21-0 lead in the first quarter, then yeah, that changes the game a little bit. And I hope that that's where the Lions don't fall prey to what they've done in seasons past, which is that bend but don't break. And then next thing you know, it spins out of control and the game gets caught up and it's a 0-0 game again. And then everyone's deflated. You lose confidence and it's the NFC Championship at 23 all over again. That's what I don't want to see happen. So I think that we got to keep the foot on the gas and either blow these guys out if you can, or if it's going to be a boat race, it's going to be a boat race. We just have to have the faster boat. It's that simple. Anything else you want to end with today? I think I got a few more things.
Yeah, my biggest thing I want to end with today is
I got a lot more things. Sorry.
If you were a Lions game or a Lions fan, and you have tickets to this game, take them off of Ticketmaster, go to the game, give your tickets to another Lions fan, sell them to another Lions fan. We need Lions fans in the stands this weekend. There is still about 40% of the tickets for sale for the entire stadium, and prices are dropping because the tickets aren't selling, even to Commanders fans. So we need Lions fans in the stands. Let's do better. Let's get some Lions fans there this weekend, please.
So, I mean, I did see that stat where the Lions tickets are the most expensive ticket out of the entire season, and we are even pushing up against the lowest ticket price to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
That is completely asinine.
Yeah, and next week's going to be even more ridiculous.
Yeah, and I will say this. I mean, the Lions did put out the warning that, you know, if you're a season ticket holder selling your tickets for more than 2 times its value, you could have your tickets pulled. So here's what I will say, and then I'm going to move on. I do have a few more things to get to.
Yeah.
If you've been waiting this long for the Detroit Lions to do what they're doing, why on earth would you take a chance for $1,000 profit to potentially have too many Commanders in seats?
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, the thing that I know a lot of them are thinking, and a lot of them are saying online, is that they think we're going to breeze through this game and they're saving to go to the championship game.
Well, if you're a season ticket holder, you've already got a ticket to the championship game. I mean, it's
yes, but because the prices on some season tickets were upped by up to 60%, they're thinking they can make back that 60% raise by selling this game. They still get to go to a playoff game, and they get most of their money back for that 60% upcharge on season tickets.
Well, guess what's going to happen next year? They're going to raise it again.
Yeah.
Because you guys are selling these tickets for these crazy price. They're going to raise it again. The more you keep doing this, the higher the tickets are going to be. So if you can't afford them now, you won't be able to afford them next year, because the ticket price will be higher, especially when we win the Super Bowl. All right, let's get into Richard Sherman here real quick.
Yeah.
Richard's been he's been a big supporter of the Lions recently.
Well, he's turned. He was
I don't think he's turned.
Yes, because I watch his show ever since his first episode this year, because he just started this show this year. And his buddy that's on the show with him is a diehard Lions fan, and he has turned him. He actually had him take his Seahawks cap off, and he put on a Lions hat this week.
You mean turned for the Lions?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant turned away from the Lions. Yeah, no. He's supporting the Lions. Like I said, you said no, he's turned. So I'm thinking, what do you mean he's turned?
He's turning into a Lions fan.
Yeah, it's a little bit different there. Play on words, I guess. So yeah, his buddy there, he's got a One Pride hat that I've never seen. And so I tried to message them to figure out where they got this hat, if it was custom made or if it's available, because I've never seen it and I want it. All right, here we go. Richard Sherman.
Well, Richard, we have a final 8 in the NFL playoffs. The Commanders are taking on the Lions. This guy, Jaden Daniels, man, he's a future star, Richard. I mean, we might be talking NFL MVP in the next 5 years with this guy. The way he plays in the pocket and is able to scramble, I mean, he plays this game wise beyond his years. How much of a threat do you think he can be to an injured and battered Detroit Lions team?
It's going to be a challenge, because it has to be contain. And some of the things he does, you can't simulate. You know, they're going to have to put a receiver or a DB at quarterback just to give you an idea of the kind of speed that you're going to be dealing with and dynamic elusiveness that you're going to be dealing with at the quarterback position. And it's a little easier when you got tape of your team going against them. You have tape of you dealing with them at times, or somebody, you know what I mean, a plan. And now he has gotten stopped at times. Like, people have had success stopping him, but not a lot, and not lately. And so that's the part that concerns me, is that if they can't consistently stop him, and this ends up being a shootout, and just like with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if he gets the ball last and he's only down 3, he's going to win. And that's what he's shown. I mean, I think he has the most fourth quarter first downs and touchdowns of just about any quarterback. And whether it's rushing or passing, like he finds a way to make winning plays in the fourth quarter consistently, and his team knows it, and his team believes it. So when you have an unwavering belief and faith, it's powerful. It's powerful for a team, and it allows guys to unlock their true potential. And defensively, that defense is playing better. You got veterans.
Okay, so he was going to go in and talk about Wagner and, some of the other veterans playing pretty good ball on this team. But, he made a very, very clear point here. And it's something that I've been talking about all week. Again, before he did his podcast this week, I kind of put the play out early, between Monday, Tuesday, contain. And I'm glad to hear somebody like Richard Sherman, who understands this from, one of the best cornerbacks to play the game. He understands it. You are one of the best defensive backs to play the game. He understands it. And contain has to be what the Lions are thinking this week. Has to be. He's right when he says it's going to be difficult. He's right when he says, there has been teams that have been able to shut him down, Jaden Daniels, but it's not often, and it hasn't been lately. And that is the one thing that the Lions are going to have to figure out. So tonight, when I do the live show tonight, we're going to review. Oh, shoot, I guess I can't do that tonight. We'll do this tomorrow afternoon, early afternoon or early evening. I want to do a members only video of the Commanders and Saints game where Jaden Daniels was sacked 8 times for 37 yards. And let's review and analyze, what happened. Why did the Saints have success? Because when you think about the RPO, you don't really think about sacks. And how did they get in? How were they able to get to Daniels? And this is early in the season. So Jaden Daniels has progressed since then. So I'm going to do this tomorrow as a members only video. If you are a member of the channel, it's only $3.99 a month. You'll be invited. We'll make sure that you guys are all in there. We haven't really had a ton of people join them. They watch it later. They don't join it live, but I'd love to have everybody in if you want to get in tomorrow afternoon. So he's exactly right. Sherm knows the deal here. We have to keep the number one, and the number one is Jaden Daniels. We have to keep him under wraps. If the Lions don't keep him under wraps, we're going to be in trouble. Quick comments on this before I get to a mailbag question.
Somebody in the chat, they're talking about Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
And saying he's old and that he's washed. Well, guess what? Bobby Wagner is an all-pro this season.
Again.
Yeah, 11 in a row. And that's part of what they were going to talk about on the Sherman podcast there. So don't underestimate Bobby Wagner. He did not practice yesterday, but I'm guessing that's more of a veteran's
rest.
Day of rest. So don't underestimate Bobby Wagner. Don't. He has very good games against the Lions usually.
All right, so up next, I'm going to give you guys a mailbag question that came in last night. And if you'd like to get mailbag in, it's mailbag@rockdon.com. It's always listed, just above me here, mailbag@rockdon.com, right up there. And then the show phone to the left of that. Phone's been on. Haven't had any calls today. So the show phone's open from 8:30 to 9:30. If you guys want to call in from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m., that's when we'll take a few calls. Try to limit it to a few so we can get through these segments. As you guys can see, there's not many shows out there that can talk for 2 straight hours without a bunch of ads, a bunch of commercials, and 5-minute delays. I honestly don't even know how I do it for 2 hours straight, but we do. And honestly, I'm looking at my rest of my show here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
we have
6.
So much we didn't even get to.
I have 8 more segments plus Eric's stuff we didn't even get to today. So that'll be set up for tomorrow. So part of tomorrow is we're going to talk about the genius of Dan Campbell and why we shouldn't worry about this game and the culture in Detroit. And it's kind of tied into the genius of Dan Campbell. We're also going to get into Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn and what did we learn? What did they learn from this last week? And the Lions meet with the media. That is something that I wanted to get into today. We'll do that tonight. So I'll do that one tonight. So we have a full show already lined up for tomorrow. Yeah. But this next mailbag question here was brought in to ask the question about David or about Fipp, right? Our special teams coordinator, and why he's not getting looked at for head coaching jobs. That was the question. Why is Fipp not getting looked at for head coaching position? And I will say it very bluntly, he doesn't want one. And he said this as again yesterday. So this question, it must have come in. Maybe they didn't see the presser of Fipp, but Fipp said it yesterday. He's not really interested in a head coaching position. So the lack of attention, again, it's not really an indictment on Fipp. It's rather he has expressed that he does not have any desire to be a head coach at his age. He did before, right? He just doesn't now. And here's his quote. He says, "The thing that I love the most is working with the players. I love the meeting room. It's my favorite place in the building. The meeting room when it's full of players. I get to coach every player of the team. I get to be involved with a lot of different aspects of the game, offense, defense, offensive plays, offensive players, defensive players. I really can't imagine not having that. To be honest with you, it's my passion. My goal is to keep my job. I mean that. These jobs are hard to get. I feel very fortunate to have the one that I have. It gives me a ton of fulfillment, and there's really nothing else that I'm looking for. I don't want to deal with all of the stuff that head coach has to deal with on a daily basis, because that would be probably my least favorite side of the game of football at this level. That's really it for me. I mean, if somebody said, hey, man, you have to do this for me, and there's somebody I knew really well, and I don't know, maybe. But other than that, there's no way. So I don't see it happening, obviously. So Fipp loves where he's at, man. He loves where his feet are. That's where he wants to stay. He wants to stay in Detroit. He wants to be part of this program. He loves working with Dan Campbell and the rest of the crew. So, big ups to Dave Fipp, man. He's had such an incredible run with the Lions and the special teams group. Done an excellent job. Another All-Pro this year for Fox, or his first, I should say. And I honestly think Jake Bates is not far behind. And Khalif Raymond, he made it this year. So, second team, All-Pro. So, big shout out to those guys, man. Fipp's doing an excellent job, but that's why he's not being looked at for a head coach.
Yep. He's completely shut it down. He doesn't want interviews. He's not going to take them. Why take them if you're not going to go do the job?
Yeah. Mr. Thomas. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
So Mr. Thomas says, great show, gentlemen. I love the chat. You guys are the greatest. And if you want to be part of the chat, there's two different chats. So if you become a member of the channel, there's a Voxer chat, which is members only. And you get to talk to all these people off, air, behind the scenes. Just be considerate of, the time. Like, I don't think you want to be texting people after 10 p.m., right? Or 5 a.m.
We're up all day.
Just be considerate. It's up to you guys. I mean, if you want to shut off your phone, you can shut off your phone. But there's that. Become a member. You get access to the Voxer chat. And of course, just subscribe to the channel. Just by subscribing to the channel, you get to come in, every morning and chat for a couple hours, whether you're able to watch or just listen. There's plenty of opportunities to meet people and have good conversation. There's so much good conversation. I wish I could just highlight the chat. I tried to put it up on the screen before, and it's so small. Like it's hard to see, and that's why I don't have it up anymore. So anyway, get into the chat, have some fun in there. So we're going to end the day on Jeff Daniels. A little bit of a different story. He was on Jimmy Fallon last night. He was on Jimmy Fallon talking about the Detroit Lions. So I would suggest that you can go to the YouTube. You just type in Jimmy Fallon or Jeff Daniels on Jimmy Fallon. It's a good episode. But we're going to end the day on his song here. I love Jeff, man. It's crazy to think. It's crazy to think that this guy comes from Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
And he's turned into this amazing actor, incredible career from Dumb and Dumber. Oh, every time I picture Dumb and Dumber and Jeff, all I see is the boogers on his face in the cold winter scene where they're on the moped or whatever. That's what I envision. That's what I see. Or them flying around in the back of that dog van or whatever it was. That's how I remember Jeff.
You ever watch Escanaba in the Moonlight?
Nope, but maybe I will today.
Oh, dude. I have it on Blu-ray. I have it on DVD. I went to the premiere. And listen, I've seen it probably 6 times in the theater. It is one of my all-time favorite movies ever. And come to find out, my stepmom, Karen, she was actually in the movie. She was in the scene in the bar where they're doing the thing with the pool cues and the rolls of toilet paper. So I didn't find out until just a few weeks ago that she was actually in the movie. And I thought that was pretty cool.
I got a question. Who the hell has Blu-ray and DVDs?
Well, I used to, but stream it, watch it. And I'm going to tell you, so you can put on your tinfoil hat. There's stuff about aliens. You're going to learn who the Jimmer is, his Chevy Chicka-Chit. And dude, it is the funniest freaking movie
Chevy
you'll ever watch.
Chicka-Chit? What? Now I'm going to watch it. Now you got me sold. So
The Chevy Chicka-Chit. Yeah. That's the way this guy talks in the movie. And he's hilarious. Oh God, it's so funny. It's one of the best movies ever. And I can't tell you about it. It's if you've never seen it, go watch it. It's one of Jeff Daniels' best movies ever. He wrote it as a play and they made it into a movie. So it is a play that, like, up here, some of the places like in Escanaba, I think at their opera house or whatever up there, that they actually have the play once a year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll watch it if I can find it. Anyway,
it's about a deer hunter that's never gotten a deer, and involves aliens and a bunch of weird stuff goes on, and it's absolutely hilarious. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. My wife, she hates it. She thought it was dumb, but I loved it. I thought it was great.
Hold on here. I forgot to do my little highlight. I forgot to do my highlight this morning. All right, so if you have not been to Detroit ever, if you're coming this weekend and you're looking for something to eat, well, number one, you can always stop by Moot's Pizzeria. They're doing some sort of a themed Lions pizza and some drinks, and they're donating $1 to the Lions Foundation. That is number one place you can visit. But there's also another staple in Detroit. It's been around for a long time. It's a rivalry. They're next door to each other. And that is get your Coney dogs, man. Coney Island and Lafayette Coney Island. They're right next door. Check them out. If you like dogs and chili, you got to try it the way that Detroit makes it. And you've got to put your experience to the test and vote. Which one do you like best? So check them out this weekend. Coney Island, American Coney Island, and Lafayette Coney Island. Like I said, they're right next door. Check it out. That is a Detroit staple. You've got to go there. I don't personally eat hot dogs, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't try what they put together, because there's another place it's local here in the Grand Rapids area that also does a version of the Coneys, and they're pretty good. Back in the day when I used to go out downtown, I used to always stop there, midnight to get something to eat. But anyway, we'll finish the day here on Jeff Daniels and his song. I don't even remember the name of the song, to be honest with you.
It's The Curse of Bobby Lane.
Is that the actual name?
Yep.
All right. Well, here we go. Hold on. You guys don't have any sound? What's going on here? How do they not have any sound?
I could hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I could hear it. What's going on? We'll play it again.
Audio good here by Trace.
Well, now you made me come back.
I was singing along.
Here we go.
Yeah. On my phone was Peyton Manning.
He said, Jeff, I feel your pain. Will you join me in exorcising the curse of Bobby Lane? Just like that, we started winning. Just like that, we were playoff bound. Just like that, way up in heaven, Bobby Lane turned around. Say goodbye to all that sorrow. Say goodbye to all that pain. Say goodbye to the same old life and the curse of Bobby Lane. Everybody say goodbye to all that sorrow. Say goodbye to all that pain. Say goodbye to the same old life and the curse of Bobby Lane.
Love Jeff Daniels. Love the song. Love Detroit Lions. That's it for today. Go One Pride. Go Detroit Lions. We'll see you guys tomorrow. The final day before the showdown.